Whether you're going through a tough breakup or simply a challenging time, it's time for you to find joy again. In this video, I'll be discussing what joy is, where it comes from, and how you can cultivate more joy in your life. This comes from the teachings of the Book of Joy, which describes a discussion between the Dalai Lama and Archbishop Desmond Tutu, written by Douglas Abrams. I'm reading the book, so you don't have to. But if you're interested, I do highly recommend this book. I'm only about 50 pages in, and there is so much good stuff in here, but I'm going to extract it and give it all to you in this very video. So get ready to find some joy. But first, my name is Dr. Lilli. I help you heal from toxic relationships so that you can create the healthy relationship of your dreams. So if you're looking for help on how to heal from your toxic relationship, your recent breakup, find joy, and create a healthy relationship, you're going to want to subscribe to my channel. And with that, let's dive into this book. So to start off, this is a very interesting conversation between two moral leaders in the world, the Dalai Lama and Archbishop Desmond Tutu, which come from very different backgrounds. The Dalai Lama has a Buddhist background, whereas the Archbishop has a Christian background. And what this reminded me of is a patient that I saw who was a heroin addict. We had a deep conversation about his beliefs, what led him to addiction, and what was helping him get out of it and actually find and cultivate love for himself again. Part of his journey was finding Buddhism and Christianity and integrating both of them into his life. Now, this video is not to push any type of religion on anybody, but I wanted to bring this up because it's a conversation between these two leaders from very different backgrounds. And what this patient told me is that they personally were Christian in religion and Buddhist in philosophy. So he saw these things as different that could actually blend well together, which I thought was so beautiful because I see value in both of these texts and teachings, but I don't fully subscribe to one or the other. I like to integrate and take the best parts of both. I think it's beautiful that we can integrate both of them and create the most loving life and world for ourselves and each other. So one of the first main points of the book, when you're talking about joy, you also have to talk about suffering. And what is suffering? Where does suffering come from? And how does that play a role in us experiencing and finding joy? And what these two discuss is that suffering is often man-made. It is an internal state that we create for ourselves. They say that we create most of our suffering. And there's even an analogy that they use of pain and suffering. And this is the idea that when there is pain, we are struck by two arrows. The first being the pain of the arrow itself, and the second arrow being our suffering as a result of it. But these two talk about how suffering is a choice. It is an internal state, and we don't have to make ourselves suffer. We can experience pain and we can fully experience the emotions and feelings that come with it, but it is the prolongation of the pain that leads to suffering. And so if suffering is coming from an internal state, then that means joy is also an internal state, and it can be cultivated from within instead of relying on our external circumstances. A lot of people look to external things, the relationship that they have, the job, the money, the home, the family. And while all those things can be important and bring more joy and meaning to our lives, our true joy doesn't have to be reliant on any of the external. In psychology and modern science, we actually recognize that emotions only last about 90 seconds in the body. And after that, it is just us feeding the emotion that causes us to experience it for longer. So if we have anger, we can experience that anger, but it is when we feed this idea of what this person did, blaming them, telling ourselves that we were right, what we should have done, how we should have responded to them, what they were thinking, all of the story and the narrative that gets created around that feeling is what actually prolongs the experience of it, rather than just letting it flow through us and letting it go, which I think is a perfect example of us prolonging our own suffering or creating our own suffering rather than just experiencing the pain and not having that second arrow. One thing that stuck out to me that the Dalai Lama said was that when you're searching for happiness, you don't find it. It's kind of like this idea of searching for love, searching for somebody to fulfill you, to fill this hole within yourself, searching for something to make you happy, that's all something that you're relying on in the external world. And so true happiness actually gets cultivated from within. And when you're looking for it, when you're attached to this thing, when you feel like you have to have it, then that is the thing that will complete you, that becomes the barrier or the resistance to actually experiencing it. Because then you're no longer focusing on exactly where you are. You're not in the present. You're not experiencing gratitude. You're trying to grasp at something that becomes even more elusive when you're trying to get it. And when you're trying so hard to get something and feeling like you're not getting it, then you're getting more emotion around that thing. You're getting impatient, you're getting frustrated, you're getting sad, you're getting demoralized around feeling like you need to have this or want to have this, and not just letting it be and letting it flow to you. Because when you're searching for something, when you're trying to get something, that is then saying that you don't have that. And if happiness and joy are internal states, then you do have it. You can have it. But you are making yourself think that you are at a lack, that you are missing something, when really it is in you all along. You are the answer. You are the answer to every single problem and challenge that you're experiencing. The way that you respond, the way that you react, you can have a very difficult experience and still find joy, peace, happiness within that. I'm not saying it's always easy, but it's possible to have glimmers of hope, of faith, of happiness, of joy, of laughter. All of these things are possible. I was discussing this with a group of women the other day, and one of them is a cancer survivor. And she talked about how difficult it was and how much suffering there was in going through treatment and experiencing everything that went along with having cancer at the time. And she was very young too. But she was still able to cultivate moments of joy and happiness by just recognizing all of the beauty around her and being grateful for the little things, noticing the flower, noticing the smile on somebody's face. All of these things, even in times of deep suffering and pain, allowed her to experience bits and pieces of joy and happiness. And an example from my own life was I had been dating somebody for a little bit, and I realized that this person didn't really want a relationship. They didn't want to move forward. They didn't want commitment. And that was a tough pill to swallow. I was trying to believe that this person really did want something, looking at certain actions, trying to convince myself that, yeah, this is it. And they had told me explicitly what I thought was explicit, that that was something that they were at least open to or looking for or could see this developing into. And then I can't even remember what the experience was, but something happened and I realized, yeah, this person, they don't want a relationship. And while I was driving home, very sad, tears in my eyes, at the same time, I noticed a smile come to my face and this feeling of so much gratitude for everything I learned from the experience. In that same moment that I was also sad and dealing with the pain and the acceptance and having to move on and the feelings of rejection too, I could also see so much beauty in the moment, in seeing how this was a part of my growth and development, in seeing that I learned things from this person. I stepped into myself more. I learned more things about myself, and that I could then take what I learned and apply this to the next relationship or person. I had so much gratitude and peace at the same time as I had some suffering. It was almost ridiculous. I almost laughed at myself. I realized in the moment how silly it seemed. And it's not always easy, but with practice, practicing that gratitude, practicing seeing the positives, the lessons, your brain will start automatically helping you in times of suffering. And that made letting go for me so much easier. Now, I also want you to think about what joy means to you. What is that feeling? How do you know that you're experiencing joy? When I talked to these other women, we talked about joy being a very visceral, embodied experience. It's felt throughout the whole body. It's felt in the bones and the muscles. Whereas happiness can feel like a more superficial or surface level feeling, whereas joy is fully embodied and radiant. In the book, there's a list of different states of joy, and I want to read them out to you because joy doesn't always have to be just one thing. So, other states or expressions of joy are happiness, contentment, delight, gratitude, serenity, ecstasy, compassion, generosity, forgiveness, and humor or laughter. So think about all of the different ways that joy can show up for you and in your life. I'm not going to go too deeply into this one, but they also share that the 4 main human emotions are sadness, anger, fear, and joy. One really great point that the Dalai Lama brings up is that when there is nothing you can do about a certain challenge or circumstance, then why suffer? There's nothing you can do. You have no control over it. But if there is something you can do about a specific challenge or circumstance, then again, why suffer? You can do something about it. You can make a difference. You can change. I think part of suffering and not having joy is this need or desire for control. Suffering comes from feeling like we can over-control something or feeling like we have no control over something. To me, suffering comes from feeling like you can control something that you really can't and feeling like you have no control over something. But oftentimes, if you think about this last point, having no control over something, that is a sense of release, but you're desiring to control this thing that you actually can't control. And there is one thing that you can control, and that is your inner state. It is how you respond to something. You can't always control the emotions that come up automatically, but we also talked about how emotions only last for 90 seconds. So you can choose to let go of those and cultivate joy within you. Feel the feeling of happiness, of peace, of contentment, even if you're going through a time that could be considered suffering. I believe that you can always choose to find joy. For example, one time I had a very long day. I was so tired. I was ready to just get cozy and watch a TV show in bed. And this was during medical school. And I never watched TV or movies just on my own. So this to me was a sign that I really needed rest. That is how tired I was. But I was also very hungry. So I made some food, put it in a bowl, and I went to go get in bed. And I set this bowl on the bed, and I was like, I'm a little bit concerned about this, but I was like, it'll be fine. And then I go to sit on my bed, and I kind of hop up there. And of course, when I get up, the bed moves, and the bowl just spills all over my white comforter. And again, I was so tired. I was like, this is not what I need right now. I could have cried, I could have been upset, I could have been angry, I could have had all these emotions, and I could feel them swelling up in me. But even that emotion was too much energy at the time. I didn't even have the energy to be mad or upset. And so what did I do? I chose to feel something different. I chose to change my mindset and say, you know what? This is good. I needed to change my comforter. I needed to wash my sheets anyways. I needed to clean. This was a good thing. And I told myself as I was cleaning up and throwing things in the washer, I was like, you know what? This was needed. I made that cognitive reframe, that mindset shift, and it helped everything. I wasn't upset. I wasn't angry. I wasn't sad. I didn't break down and cry. I was able to just get done what I needed to get done. Feel even a little bit of peace, a little bit of gratitude that, you know what, this is something good for me. This was needed. It was important for me. It was serving me in some way. And then get back in, cozy up, and continue with my night and not let it ruin everything. So remember that you always have a choice. You can choose to go into the negative emotions, into feeling them, into suffering, or you can choose to look for a brighter side. Look for something positive, the silver lining, and create a different state of being from within you. A question that is brought up and is pondered between the Dalai Lama and Desmond Tutu is the idea of, are emotions in our control? Can we control our emotions? Now, they didn't dive too much into this in this section of the book, but they did allude that Desmond Tutu believed that we don't have control over emotions, whereas the Dalai Lama believes that we have more control than we think. I agree with both of these. I agree that our body can respond and we can feel an emotion, but we can also control how long that emotion lasts if we feed it, if we want to keep that emotion, or if we want to just accept it, let it go, and move on, which is a lot more control than we often think that we have. Another great point that is brought up in this book is that joy can come so quickly from suffering. And oftentimes, the more suffering that we experience, the more pain that we experience, the greater capacity we have to experience joy. They're opposites. If you know more pain, then you also have greater appreciation for the joy that you can experience. If you've had no hardships, then you can experience joy, but you don't ever really know what that joy means. There is nothing to contrast it against. There is no challenge to overcome. There is no sense of achievement or reward for getting to experience such joy. So remember this: if you are in a deep sense of pain, of suffering, if it hurts so much you can't even eat or sleep, remember that this is part of your development. This is part of your journey. You will not be here forever. You don't have to be. You have a choice, and you can take steps to, one, experience joy in the moment and create a more joyful life overall. You have power and agency in your life, and this difficult time is going to reflect in your life as so much more greater joy too. It's the idea of, how can you know light when you don't know dark? How can you know joy if you don't know pain? They even discuss the experience of giving birth, how it comes with so much pain in the labor process, which can last for days. But as soon as the mother delivers her baby and she's holding that baby in her arms, there is so much joy that is experienced. And you forget almost all of the pain and suffering. It didn't even matter at that point, because you are rewarded with so much joy. And all of that hard work, all of that labor, cultivated into something even more beautiful. So a question that you can ask yourself to cultivate more joy is, how can I use this emotion and pain and turn it into something positive? How can I use this experience and make it something useful for me? How can you find the light within the darkness? Because there's always light. Even if that light is just the ability that you have to create light within you and show yourself how much power you have over your own emotions, over your own happiness. So there are 3 things that they discuss in this book that are the main pillars for creating and cultivating joy. And those are mindset shifts or reframing, so adjusting the way that you look at something, adjusting your perception of something, gratitude, and compassion. Compassion and empathy for others. They talk about how when you are suffering, but you turn your attention onto somebody else's suffering, it takes away your own experience of that suffering, of that pain. And so when you can look to somebody else and help serve them in some way, it distracts you from your own pain, because that experience of pain and suffering is from this idea of too much selfishness, of too much self-focus, self-centeredness. All you can do is think about your situation and your pain and your challenge. But when you stop thinking about that and look towards others and focus on them, help them, it alleviates that pain from within. So the Dalai Lama says to recognize that others are suffering and that you are not alone. It's this idea of community and connection and helping others that can actually bring you joy. He describes it as wise selfishness, because it's self-serving in a way, but it's also helping somebody else. So instead of focusing on you and increasing your suffering, you can help alleviate your suffering by having compassion and serving another. So those are the main ideas in this first section of the Book of Joy. I told you it would be a lot, but I hope you got something really powerful from that. I want to recap some of the main things that are really, really important. that aren't explicitly said in this book, but I found to be important takeaways from this section. The first being that there is choice in joy. You can choose suffering or you can choose joy. Joy is a state of being. It comes from within, and you can choose to access that at any point. The next being that suffering has to do with your desire for control or feeling like you don't have control. This is where letting go, detaching, accepting, letting go of this idea that you have to control is what is really causing you the pain and suffering. Feeling like you could have changed something or done something different when you really couldn't have. Or maybe you could have, but you can't now. You can't change the past. But by focusing on that and dwelling on it and trying to figure it out, you're just prolonging your own suffering. And so a question for you is, why do you want to suffer? Why do you believe that you deserve to suffer? Or do you deserve to suffer? What is it that is keeping you in that state? Is it because you simply didn't know? Or is it because you feel you deserve to be punished? And what told you that you deserve that? Next, you don't find joy. You are joy. You radiate joy. You embody it. Joy is a state of being, not something to achieve. It is an experience. And when you experience joy and embody it fully, everybody around you feels it too. You know those people that just have this radiant, magnetic, exciting energy about them that comes from within. They could be going through a difficult time and you would never know it because they choose to embody this expression of joy no matter what. So you can use your pain and suffering to your advantage, or you can become hardened. You can close off your heart. You can build up walls so nobody else gets in, so you can no longer feel heartache or suffering or heartbreak. Or you can choose to learn and grow from the suffering. Just like a muscle, you can feel yourself stretch and break, but come back even stronger than you were before. So you can either build up scar tissue or create stronger, more flexible, more active tissue. The guys who become the alpha male types, the red pill, the incels, those are the people that have chosen to become hardened and to use their suffering and their pain to close out everything and everyone and sit in the pain and suffering that they have experienced. Same goes for women. The ones who just want to use men, who don't care anymore, who think all men are trash and become very aggressive, they've become hardened as well. But you don't have to be that way. You can grow and move through it. You can see the light and you can hold on to that. Because when you build up those walls and shut everybody out, you also shut out connection. You shut out your chance at cultivating happiness, of cultivating peace and love again. But if you stay soft, even when it's difficult, even when you've gone through suffering, you allow yourself to be open and ready for more love, happiness, and joy. So ask yourself, is it worth the risk? Are you going to let yourself be hardened by the world and your past experiences? Or are you going to let those inform how you walk through the world now in a more boundaried, healthy, fully embodied version of you, so that you remain open and ready to receive all of the abundance that you desire and deserve? That is the question that you have to ask yourself. This will be a video series as I go through the entire book, so make sure to subscribe if you found this helpful and you want to learn more. And now it's one thing to read about this and hear about it and learn about it, but it's another thing to truly embody it. That is where real change happens and the real work is done. If you want help and guidance on how to fully embrace your inner joy, heal from the pain and heartache from the past, and step fully into the most embodied version of you, ready to create the love and life that you desire, apply for one-on-one coaching with me. The link is down below. If you found this video helpful, please give it a like, subscribe, and I will see you next time.